everybody, Bradley here, and welcome into Civilization 6, where the music is popping off right now, just going absolutely banana sandwich. Today we are talking about campuses. Look, there's 3 of them. There's 3 campuses. They're all good. There's 3 good campuses on your screen right now. Before we get started, we have a big announcement for you. That announcement is we now have a VB live channel. So if you are someone who wants to check out the live stream, but you either cannot or do not want to watch on Twitch, there is now a live channel where we will post the stream VODs over on, so you can watch the stream VODs over there because they're a couple hours long. I didn't want to post them here, but if you want to hang out in the live stream, but you can't or don't want to watch on Twitch, that link will be in the description. And just the channel is just called VB Live, and it's me, VB, playing this game and other games live, and then you can click on it and watch. So it's pretty fun. We are currently back in our really cool kind of fun. I had a bunch of comments in the Industrial Zone video like, bro, how the hell do you get to almost 2,000 science? So that's something we might talk about in another video. But we're back in this fun game that we did stream live. So if you're the reverse and you don't want to watch it after it's happened, you want to catch the live stream live, we stream Civ, we stream Football Manager, we stream a bunch of fun things. That link is twitch.tv/VanBradley. It's in the description. It's there with the Discord server that you should definitely join, and with the YouTube channel memberships link that you can click on. I think it's $2 a month to get started, and you get a cool badge and all that kind of stuff, but it helps us pay Onvars, who's editing this video. So hi, Onvars. All right, shorter intro than the last one complete. We are now here with campuses where we have a lot to talk about. Like the last video with industrial zones, and like every video on districts moving forward, my opinions are just my opinions. You're gonna have different opinions. We all play this game a different way. We're all different people. Every human being is different. We all play fun things in our own fun ways to create our own fun experiences. And while all those experiences include campuses, we might utilize them differently. So if you're not a fan of my opinion, that's okay. I might not be a fan of yours. Much like the Industrial Zone video, though, feel free to let us know in the comments, because there's a lot of good discussions happening there, and that's something we definitely want to promote in the Civilization community. First thing we need to talk about with campuses are when do we start getting them? When can we start building them? And how easy are they to make good in quotation marks? So let's take a look at this tech tree here. We are way at the end, but if we go all the way back to writing, you know, these primitive people just discovered writing over here. That's where we can build the campuses. So the campuses come in really early, just good background knowledge to know. Unlike the industrial zones, which we just talked about, that come in a little bit later, coming in this early into the game does factor into our calculation a little bit as to how good they are, how many you should build, yada yada, etc, etc. Now, I typically classify good campuses, again, good in quotation marks. Not all campuses will be the same kind of good in every game. Sometimes they'll have to be higher, sometimes they'll have to be lower, but mostly I go +3 as my metric for a good campus. If it's a +3 campus, that is good enough for us to build pretty early on in the game. If it's +4 or +5 or higher, that's amazing. If it's +2 or +1, I might try and fandangle a way to get it just a little bit higher, but +3 is my baseline for it being a good, in quotation marks, campus. Most of the adjacency bonuses for campuses are pretty easy to spot. Mountains and reefs and geothermal fissures will be the main one. Mountain tiles here, you get a mountain. So you get 1 adjacency for each kind of mountain tile. I like how they listed every single type of mountain there. It's just all mountains. If there's a mountain, it'll give you +1. Those are the rules. 2 rainforest tiles, 2 adjacent districts, 2 from each Great Barrier Reef, 1 from a government plaza, geothermal fissure, 2 from each adjacent reef. That's different than the Great Barrier Reef, which is 2. Anyways, whatever. It's here, reef tiles. 2 from each Pamukkale tile, 2 from each ley line resource. Good luck with those, man. If you can make ley lines work, good on you. You can also just take owls and put in a science card and get probably more science, but that's okay. And then +2 science from each adjacent old faithful tile. I regret taking a shot at ley lines in every single district video, but I'm probably taking a shot at ley lines in every single district video. And if you're a fan of hermetic order, I am truly sorry. Now, that was a pretty big list of things you can do to make your campus adjacency great. The biggest things that'll contribute most early on will be mountains. You just gotta look around. They're pretty easy to spot campus things. You can go, oh, there's some mountains, there's some geothermal fissures. Over here, there's some reefs. Pretty easy stuff to spot. They're just kind of big on the map. Also, feel free to use this handy dandy map search. That's ref, not reef, you absolute idiot. Whoop, you gotta do
look,
it.
It's me being dumb again.
You gotta do it every time. But if you just search reef here, it'll pull up all the reefs if you want them highlighted and have like a little white circle around them. If you want to see all these tiles, will give you campus adjacencies. But like I said, pretty easy to spot early on what's gonna give you those good campuses we were talking about. It's important for us to look fundamentally at the reasons we should build campuses. What do campuses give us as a reason for us to build them? What is the incentive there? And that reason is pretty much just science. Science is a resource that is absolutely like full on critical, it's like the spinal cord that runs through your empire, right? So having a good science number is absolutely critical to every single Civ game, and campuses are the only real reliable way to get it, which makes campuses also by just association very, very critical infrastructure in your empire. Now, before everyone types comments like yes, there are other ways to get science. Some city-states will allow you different ways to get science. Gilgamesh has a thing he can put down, even though it's called, that'll give you some science, right? Like this thing, the mission here will give us some science. There are other ways to get some science, but campuses are really the only way in every single Civ game to get enough science to kind of bankroll your empire in terms of infrastructure. Campuses also act as almost a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is very, very interesting because the more campuses you have, the easier it is to keep increasing your science higher and higher and higher and higher. If you get to writing pretty quick and you get a couple good campuses down, well, that makes it easier to get up to universities. Now that you got to universities quicker, you can get all these universities, and that makes it easier to get up to research lab. Where's research labs? Yeah, there we are. Right. While all this is happening, you're getting some great scientists, other things. You can run campus research grants, and that'll make it easier to keep getting more science. So science is almost like a snowball that once you get it going, if you can roll the snowball up big enough, it kind of just becomes a snowball that rolls down the hill on its own. And eventually where you end up is you have enough good campuses, you have enough science, right, where you've gotten everything so quickly at the end of the snowball that you end up with policy cards like this that are giving us plus 1,242 science. Plus 1,242 science, plus 61, plus 48, plus 26. This culture card is giving us plus 1,206. We'll talk about that with theater squares, right? But eventually you get to a point where a card like this just gives me more than half my science because I got the snowball rolling. So now we can talk about this snowball a little bit. And the most important thing to understand is that science is an additive thing in Civilization 6. It's easy just to look at this number and go, oh, I have a higher science than the person next to me. Therefore, I'm probably farther ahead in the tech tree. And that might be pretty intuitive, but science has been adding up turn over turn over turn. So if you just got to the level of somebody and they've been at a higher science than you for most of the game, and you've just caught up, yes, you have the same science as them right now, but because theirs has been adding up turn over turn over turn higher than yours, they're still farther ahead. So just be really careful when you think about science, not to just look at this top line number and go, oh, I have the same amount, therefore I'm just as far along the tech tree, because that's not really how it works. Now, I know I messed up the math a whole lot in the last video, and it was embarrassing and funny, and I'm glad Onvars put a little put a little math lesson up on the screen for you guys to look at. 50 divided by 2 is 20. So let me put it to you this way, and I'm positive I'll get the math right on this one. If I don't, Onvars will fix it. So in a 10-turn space, let's say your opponent, person A, your opponent here, gets 200 science per turn for 10 turns. You look at this number, it says 200. After 10 turns, they all have accumulated 2,000 science. If you look in here, each thing has a cost. So 2,000 science will get you advanced flight, or it'll get you radio and a third of advanced flight, but it says like worth 1,776 science. So 200 per turn for 10 turns, you get 2,000, right? But let's say you got 100 per turn for 9 turns. Right, so now you're at 900, and then you get 200 on the 10th turn, right? It says you both have 200, But really, they've accumulated 2,000 science, and you've only accumulated 1,100, even though it says the same number on this bar. So just be very careful. This is very important, especially as you go up in the difficulties, that this is an additive premise, right? Not only does this number matter where you at right now, it matters a lot where you've been, because where you've been adds up to where you are now. So just be really careful when you're just looking at these top line numbers for science, not to fall into the trap of I have the same number as them, therefore I'm just as far ahead as them. Now that we know how important science is, like it's the backbone, it's the critical infrastructure of your empire, and how important it is to get it rolling early because of the additive aspects of it, let's talk about those first couple of campuses you're going to put down to get your science rolling. In an ordinary game of Civ, I'll use 10 to 12 cities as the example because I used that last time. I don't think there's an ordinary game of Civ with 10 to 12 cities where you're not building at least 5 good campuses, or at least trying your best to build 5 good campuses. I would say in most of my games, I'd be closer like 6 through 8 somewhere. Obviously, you don't need a campus in every single city, but you want at least, I'd say, 5 good campuses in your empire. But we want those to come as early as possible. So let's take a look at some of my early cities here. In this game where I have 1910 science now, let's take a look at my first couple campuses right here. So the first 2 campuses I put down in this game were right by this mountain range, and I prioritized them right away. If we look here, this is a natural +5 campus. So on my own scale, that's amazing, right? +3 is what I think is good early on. We want a couple +3 campuses. I found a +5er just sitting right it's just right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't have to do anything, don't have to move anything, no fuss, no muss, don't have to build anything. I can just plop it down +5. And then I come down here and I can do the same thing. I can just plop it down +5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, +5. These are my first 2 campuses. So right away, I'm able to get +10 science just from the campuses going down. Remember, those come really, really early in the game. They come right here at writing. So that's a great start for me. And then I'm able to combine that with the policy card. I don't have it anymore, but I'm able to combine it with the policy card that doubles your campus adjacency bonus. Boom, right away in this game with 2 campuses, I already have +20 science on top of what I would be getting normally. And that's the perfect start to the snowball. Then I can move down here and I can build a +3 campus, and that doesn't feel too bad. I can move over here and build a +3 campus, and that doesn't feel too bad. What other ones did I build? I built this campus here. Yeah, there's a +4 campus right here that I built. The rest of them I kind of took on my domination spree, right? But as you can see, every single one of my campuses is a +3 or higher. That's exactly what I was hoping to achieve. My first couple, though, were really, really good, and that's what got the snowball rolling. Now, obviously, having 2 +5 campuses early on is really, really nice. It's not going to happen to you every game. That's totally fine. Just do your best. This is just a good illustrative example of how I focused on campuses early in my game and ended up with 1900 science, right? 2 early +5 campuses allowed me to just build like 3s and 4s for the rest of my campuses and feel really, really good moving on later into the game. Not only did these 2 early campuses provide me with enough science to start to catch up to the AI, remember it's additive, so it takes a while to catch up, but what it also allowed me to do is really get rolling on our great scientists as all of these campuses start generating great scientist points. Now, there are quite a few districts that give you points towards great people that aren't always the best. Great admirals come to mind. Most great merchants can be kind of bad. Most great engineers can even be kind of bad. There are a lot of good ones in there, right? But lots of the great scientists are really, really, really good. So getting a roll on your great scientist points can be really helpful. Let's take a look at some of the great scientists I was able to get just by getting a couple of good early campuses. This first one I got here in 900 BC triggers the Eureka moment and random technologies for a bunch of stuff, so I was able to move myself through the tech tree, actively help me catch up with the AI by boosting myself through the tech tree in an easier way. Next up, we snagged one that gave us 250 science for each adjacent mountain tile. As you can see, we had lots of mountains in our empire. So again, this great scientist, it's a snowball effect. It gives me more freaking science, right? So you get Galileo and then boom, you're farther through the tech tree than you were before. Again, on deity, helping you catch up with the AI. Moving right on down to James Young, triggers more Eurekas and reveals oil, moving me through the tech tree and giving me information I might need to help me plan for the rest of my game. Next one up, Alfred Noble gives me Eurekas, gives me, this is now we're not in the early game anymore, so we'll leave it here, right? Gives me the Eureka for 1 random tech, and then gives me the 100 free Great People points for everything I'm recruiting. So very, very helpful to keep moving me through the game like we've already talked about. And within that were a couple of the great scientists I missed. Obviously, the AI is building lots of campuses, so I don't get them all. There are so many great scientists that make all your universities worth more. Those are great. And so there's lots of good, great scientists early on, and just get whichever ones you can. But the more you can get, the better. And that starts with these good campuses. Actually, a bit regrettable I couldn't get a campus in the Oracle City. I'm sure it was possible, and I'm sure I had my reasons to not. And by looking how the game turned out, totally a good decision not to. But if you have the Oracle in the city as well, it makes it a little bit quicker to get those. Good early campuses not only help with all the things we've talked about already, but also with wonders. Campuses are the requirement for a lot of good wonders in Civilization 6, and getting some campuses down early can really help you plan for the future when it comes to things like the Great Library here. The Great Library, when you finish it up, is going to fully boost all your ancient classical era texts, mostly just keeping you moving through. Like I said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It helps get you through and get you to where you're going a little bit quicker. On top of that, giving you science, giving you more great stuff per turn, which is awesome. So Great Library is something you can plan around with scientists, especially or with campuses, especially on lower difficulties. On Deity and Immortal, it's harder to get the Great Library. I hardly ever do, but it's just there for you if you want it. Oxford University is the one I tend to focus on the most. It's kind of the most gettable, good campusy wonder on Deity. Plus 20% science in this city. So if you got a good campus, this can be a real banger of a district. Awards 2 randomly chosen free texts when completed. Not even the boost, just gives you the texts. Absolutely amazing. Has some requirements, but you can work around them if you know you're placing those campuses, right? Gives you 3 great scientist points per turn, which is absolutely huge. So getting this Oxford University every single turn helps you with great scientist points. So talking about that self-fulfilling prophecy again, the more science you get, the more science you'll be able to get later. It really just rolls down like a snowball. Because science is so integral to your whole empire here, right? Like everything in this game requires at least a minimal amount of science and culture. Like you need a certain amount of it every game to get to where you're going. You might be asking, well, it's easy for you to say I need to build 2 good campuses at the early points of every game. How should I do that if I don't have mountains, fissures, these obvious ways to get good campuses? Well, there's some ways to fandangle it. You can make the most use of what you have. Like I said, this advice is always subjective to the game you're playing. So if you don't have campuses, fissures, or other things, it's going to be difficult, but do your best. The government plaza is a great way to help early on. Most civs have rivers, so maybe you just took a government plaza next to a river. All right, now that that's done, I have this one kind of random mountain tile. Maybe that'll help. Let's chuck a campus there. Boom, that's a +2. All right, what else is good on rivers? Well, commercial hubs are there. Now I have a +3 campus, and I can do the same over here as well. Now I've got a +4 campus, right? I like how I'm using mountains as an example where I wasn't meant to have mountains, but the government plaza, that's the point. The government plaza can be really helpful. Adjacent districts can be really helpful as well. So if you're looking through your empire and there's no good +3 or more campuses kind of easily available to you, don't even sweat it. Build +2s, build +1s. You can only work with what you have, and if you don't have a lot, you might not get a lot, but at least you should get something. I still recommend building like 2 good early campuses. You'll still get the science from all the buildings, the libraries, the universities. You'll still get all those great scientist points. So I recommend 2 good campuses early on in most Civ games. As the game goes on, I recommend in an average game of Civ with 10 to 12 cities, I would say probably at least 5 or 6 campuses throughout your empire. Moving on towards, I would say in most games, I build 7 to 8 in a game with 10 to 12 cities, right? Like getting those really good campuses down is great, but you have to supplement them with more science later in the game. And with those campuses, you want to be getting all the buildings pretty much as soon as you can, right? You have the libraries, you have the universities. I'm just scrolling through. I'm not even stopping where I want to go here. Wait a minute. Wait. We're going to find it. We're going to find them. I'm going to find everything I talked about. There's the there's the university. Jesus, this is a mess. There's the libraries here. They come with writing. They come with your campuses. There are the universities here. Research labs are up here. So you want to supplement them as the game goes on. Also, this is subjective. If your first couple of campuses are +6 campuses and they're amazing, you can delay the other campuses a little bit as well. And then obviously, if you have like 3 or 4 campuses down and you have this really ballin' like and you can choose between a +7 theater square and a +1 campus, like build the +7 theater square. The advice is general, right? 2 early good campuses to get you rolling, kind of expanding as you go along, somewhere between 6 and 8 campuses in your game. I've managed to make all of my campuses in this game pretty good. Mountains help with that, right? But that's generally the direction you should be heading in. And there's a good reason why you don't need to build campuses in every city. Sometimes you're going to need other cities to make your other districts good. In this city here, there are no campuses, but we have focused on government plazas, entertainment complexes, commercial hubs, building this +6 theater square, building this +6 theater square. So 2 cities, no campuses, right? I built my good campuses kind of away from here, down here, and this is the kind of focus you can have if you have, 8 to 12 or 10 to 12 cities, 6 to 8 of them have a campus. That's what the rest of your cities can be doing, is making your commercial hubs good or your theater squares good. So it provides that little bit of balance you need. As always, do not forget that you can run projects. These campus research grants can be run in cities that you have built campuses in. They will give you science per turn. They will give you great scientist points once finished. So if you're looking here and you're like, ooh, I really want this next great scientist, that's what you're going to be on the lookout for. And then finally, you've got your 2 good campuses. You're kind of expanding to a few more campuses as you go along. You're keeping track of your great scientists to make sure you're getting them. Remember the snowball. If you get all the good great scientists, or at least a couple of them, you can really start snowballing. Please, 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 please do not forget about the policy cards. I'm using this extended card mod to kind of show you how good they can be, right? In your game, you might not be able to see the yields at the bottom because you don't have the mod. That's fine, right? But like 61 science, 1242 science, 48 science, 21 science, 25 science, or whatever this is. There are cards in the game, 39 science, and I don't even have it in here. Right, there are cards in the game that will add up to a couple hundred science, and I don't even have that many campuses. I have like the 6 to 8 that I talked about in my main cities. I've taken over a couple, but not too many, and the ones I've taken over, like the AI built them, so they weren't the best. And so you can do a lot with those campuses that I'm talking about. Please do not sleep on the policy cards and how effective they can be in getting science for your empire. And then finally, at the very end, please do not forget about the additive nature of science. Numbers do not equal total science. So if you have the same number as someone, but you've been behind them for most of the game, just be really careful. That does not mean that you are at the same level of power as them in the science tech tree. Also, as a final point, it's so much better if you pay attention to the boosts. Boosting things is at one point a very beginner tip, because it's relatively easy to wrap your head around how it works, but it's actually, I find it to be quite an advanced thing to time all these things properly. But if you're at the level of Civ where you're comfortable kind of working on your boosts, nothing will help you more getting through the tech tree than boosting as well, right? A good boost kind of schedule where you're navigating through the tech tree kind of on your own with the boosts, combined with the ones you're going to be getting from these great scientists, helps you boost as many things in the tech tree as possible, giving you as much science as possible, and allowing you to get the snowball rolling as quickly as possible. And I think that'll do it for campuses. I'll leave you with one last look at these sexy ones here. They're not as complicated as industrial zones. There's no like positional things with between cities and all that stuff. So just keep in mind everything we talked about. Just finally know they're so important. You need them in every game. You need them in culture games. You need them in space games, obviously. You need them in Diplo games. You need them in religious games. You need them in every game. You need them in the tutorial. You need them in the pirate mode. You need them in the... That's all the modes I've got. You need them in all the modes. Just always build them. Anyways, this has been a tutorial video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, say thank you to Onvars down in the description. Hit all the links, Twitch, Discord, channel memberships, the live channel, other things that are in there. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.